Your health. Deadly infectious disease can strike anywhere, as the town of Mankato, Minnesota learned when meningitis caused an outbreak in America's heartland.
We were in new territory. This is not a typical outbreak.
Treatments don't always work, so doctors are emphasizing prevention. We'll reveal the vaccines of the future and how to better use the ones available today. Oh, and if you think shots are just for kids, you've got company. 60,000 Americans die each year from diseases that often could be prevented by just 3 vaccines. We'll tell you what they are and whether you should get them. Here's CNN medical correspondent Andrew Holtz.
Infectious disease threats. That means something like the Ebola virus off somewhere else, right? Well, they don't think that now. In the Minnesota town of Mankato, Rhonda Rowland tells the story of the threat that hit home there and could hit anywhere.
The streets of Mankato, Minnesota. Life in this town of 50,000 people is considered normal today compared to last January during what's now referred to as meningitis outbreak. Joe Kratzky, a star basketball player at Mankato West High School, was the first reported victim of bacterial meningitis, an inflammation of the brain and spinal cord which can be life-threatening. It was a Friday.
I woke up in the morning and I felt sick. I stayed home for half the day and I went to school for the other half because I had a basketball game that night. And I went to the game and I felt sick.
I said, Dad, I have a rash on my arm and I don't know what it is.
My head really hurt and I don't know, just achy all over. I was pale.
They decided Joe should go to the hospital.
So I got up to the hospital a little after 10 and was talking to Joe, and then things started going downhill fast. One of the nurses said, Joe, what's your last name? He couldn't answer. Joe, how old are you? And he couldn't answer that. And that's when I got kind of shook.
He lapsed into a coma. But fortunately, in a few days, he was better.
Besides Joe Kratzky, there were 4 other Mankato West High School students who got meningitis within a week's time, a female band leader and 3 teenage boys.
John Barnett is the school's principal.
We didn't know where it was coming from.
He called on the Minnesota Department of Health for help. Michael Osterholm is one of the nation's top infectious disease experts.
The initial 5 cases in the student population were actually cases that we really did have a connection with, that they were not all in the same activities.
But they were in the same social circles. Meningitis is spread through droplets in the air, when someone sneezes or coughs, through kissing or sharing drinks. To prevent more cases, all Mankato middle and high school students were vaccinated.
Within a couple of days, we were reporting to the student body that their classmates are indeed improving.
But by the end of the week, the outbreak took an ominous turn.
On Friday, February 3rd, when John Janaveris was taken to the hospital at 7 or 7:30 in the morning, and at 11:40, he had passed away.
Now the community saw this was something serious, something you could die from.
Oh, everyone was pretty nervous. I mean, about half the people in the school weren't even going to school, and everyone was just, basically the whole town was kind of in panic.
A community meeting was filled beyond capacity.
And I asked this question on Monday, and I asked it again today. Why is West High School remaining open and telling them?
School did stay open. Health officials said non-school activities would be more likely to spread the illness. The next 3 victims were others in the community.
We were in new territory. This is not a typical outbreak because it transcended the institution where it started.
And how does that feel to be in this new territory?
Scary, very scary. We didn't know when it was going to stop. We didn't know if what we were doing was right. We were going by science, depth, and just what we felt that the community needed.
What happened in Mankato could happen anywhere. Health officials say in the past several years, There have been more meningitis outbreaks in any given year than there had been during the previous 2 decades.
Beginning in the late 1980s, we have evidence that at least one type of group C Neisseria meningitis began to change in terms of its number and where it was located and how it caused disease.
To stop the spread, the town mobilized for mass vaccinations.
By the time it was over with, we did over 30,000 people, and it was pretty much anyone who was 29 years of age and under.
How many additional cases the vaccines prevented will never be known. To quell public panic, the hospital set up a hotline. Almost 15,000 calls were answered.
Some of the more panicky type questions came from out of town. I drove through town, and will I get meningitis? Can I come to Mankato? Is it safe to come to Mankato?
Mankato was not just about people being sick and dying. That was by far the most important element. Mankato was about a community livelihood.
People were worried they'd get meningitis from eating restaurant food.
It was the traffic that was in out of Mankato that we had a lot of problems with. Business did die down there for a while. I heard a lot of people in town, especially if we're supposed to come like to the Civic Center for events. Some of them were canceled. We go up to the mall. There would be nobody there.
After several weeks, it appeared the outbreak was over. But then it struck its 9th and final victim. Ryan Pitts missed the mass vaccination.
How bad did it get?
As bad as it can get, all the way.
They lost Ryan for several minutes and feared he wouldn't see his 8th birthday.
Happy birthday, dear Ryan. Happy birthday to you.
When you talk like this, you know, then you talk and think he might not have been with us.
Joe Kratzke's life has returned to normal.
I never thought anything like this would happen, nothing this serious.
What do you think when you look back on it now?
I'm really lucky. I mean, I'm just lucky to be here.
Mankato is an example of something that can happen anywhere at any time.
Mankato is something that not only can happen, but it will happen other places. And so for viewers watching this who believe that Mankato is a million miles away, it will occur elsewhere. And it's just a matter of how well everyone's prepared to deal with it when it happens.
Mankato survived because its people reacted quickly. Ryan Pitts remembers the outbreak every day.
Every night when I go to bed, I always pray that nobody else gets meningitis okay.
Rhonda Rowland, CNN, Mankato, Minnesota.
Many germs are evolving, learning how to beat antibiotics and other treatments. So experts are pushing even harder for vaccinations to prevent illness. We'll preview coming attractions in vaccine research and check the medical newsreel when your health returns.